Hey, how's it going? How's your mental health? How's the mental health of the people around you? How do you go assessing the mental health of the people around you and yourself? What kind of tools do you use to mitigate poor mental health, or to pay attention, or to understand what to look for? And what do you do if someone needs help and you're not sure what's going on with them? Well, great news. We're going to move past the prescriptive and we're going to move to a framework of understanding your mental health and the mental health of others with some levers that you can use and adapt to look after each other and look after yourself in a meaningful way. My name is Josh Reid Jones, founder of the Just Be Nice project. We believe in a world where everyone gets the help that they need when they need it for as long as they need it, regardless of how they come to need it, and that the help that everyone needs should always end up with them being housed, employed, and having good mental health. So really rounding out the support and getting complete outcomes, it's the goal that we work towards. It's incredibly important. It's part of the conversation I think is missing a lot of the time. But focusing today on mental health, because mental health is something that gets a big run in the paper. It's had a big run in the federal budget this year, billions of dollars pumped into it. And I think the conversations and also some of the funding sometimes indicates that we are lacking the nuanced understanding of mental health that we need. And not just nuanced, but also practical, the practical application of understanding human beings, understanding yourself, understanding your friends, understanding your family, and how you can engage with them in a way that helps build up and protect their mental health so that they can function really well. Now, I'm not talking about mental health, good mental health being just continual moments of absolute peak joy, or good mental health being the absence of frustrations in the pursuit of your wants. That's not good mental health. No one wants to live in a perfect fairy wonderland where they're ecstatic all the time. Humans aren't wired that way. It would be a real struggle. You'd have your own struggles trying to live like that. Good mental health is just making sure that you have some agency, some control, some sense of control in your life. And the overarching measure that we use at the Just Be Nice project, and also the red flag measurements that we use at the Just Be Nice project, are not on a scale of happy and sad, but on a scale of agency and despair. So agency being that you feel that you have some control over what you're doing, and that there is some point to what you're doing, and that there is a future in pursuing a course of action. So you feel that if I do X, then things can improve, or I feel like I have some control over what's going on and I can improve my life going forward, or improve my situation, improve my mood. Despair is obviously the other end of that scale, and this is the dangerous end. And so we don't worry, if people are happy and sad, that's okay. Because having good mental health is being able to engage with the full spectrum of emotions and have them come and go, and they juxtapose against one another and help us enjoy the good times a bit more, and the tough times and the sadness lets us know sometimes when we care about people or we're feeling loss or something like that, and that's okay. So happiness and sadness is a poor indicator of good mental health, but agency and despair for us is really good, and we're basically the only organisation I know that measures it like this. But we find it's really great for triaging challenges irrespective of the circumstances that we meet people in. So if you're despairing as opposed to agency, then you feel like there's no point to anything, you have no control over anything, that any efforts that you may make are pointless and will be fruitless, and there's no point to them. Now you can imagine that you can feel despair when you have no support system around you and you're on your own and you're living in abject homelessness, rough sleeping, on your own in the middle of nowhere, in an incredibly physically vulnerable state, that you might despair. But you can also see that you might despair if you're surrounded by love and family and wealth and opportunity and economic stability, because it's irrelevant to your feeling of despair. You feel like, well, I've got all this stuff, but anything I do is pointless or making things worse, or there's no benefit to me pursuing a course of action. And in that moment, you're at really high risk, and that's a terrible place to be. So at the same time, if you're rough sleeping or lacking a good infrastructure of support around you, you can still feel agency if you believe that if I do X, Y, Z, or if I do this next thing, or the next day I'll do this, that it will improve your situation, and there's a pathway to improving your situation. And that can help you navigate through challenges of environment or other challenges that you might come across. So agency and despair are really great ways of keeping track of people, because it encourages us to look beyond well, everything's going really well for you, or you've got all this stuff, or you live in a beautiful home, you got a nice car, or your job's good, or whatever. If someone is despairing, oh my goodness. The hammer drilling never stops here. It's been 2 years of renovations, and I waited till... No, it's not the end of the workday yet, but I waited till a bit later in the day to do this. But anyway, excuse the renovations. They've been going for 2 years. They continue to go. Despair and agency are a much better way to keep track of people in the moment, because if someone is having a bad time but they feel like they've got some agency, then that's a lower risk person, and we can encourage them or support them on their journey to pursue those things that they believe will help. But if someone is despairing, then that's someone we really need to put time into, put support around, and make sure that they're okay. If it gets really bad, I have to say, if you're with someone and they're despairing and you feel it's beyond your control and beyond your capacity to help, then you can call a number of hotlines, and I would just Google them because that's the best way. And if I put it here for posterity and the numbers change, then we're in trouble. But you can Google them, and you can call places like Lifeline and Suicide Callback Service. And if it gets really bad, you can call the cops, and that's fine too. And they'll come and they'll help. It's not to dob someone in or get them in trouble. The police come as first responders and help you deal with that, maybe take them to hospital and look after them there, which is totally fine. Because people sometimes they spiral and they get this impending sense of despair. And what we want to do is really mitigate that first thing. That's the first thing we want to do to give them a chance to recover and get back on the pathway to agency. Now, that's a very simple binary sort of A-B, agency, despair kind of dichotomy. And it's a really important one for assessing where people are at in a moment. How are you feeling? And generally, do you have feelings of agency? Do you have feelings of despair? And how do we sort of make you feel like you have more control? Sometimes that's by supporting them verbally. Sometimes it's by putting actual material supports around them so they can keep making improvements. Whatever it is, it's a good starting point. But when we're talking about this kind of positive mental health situation, or having good mental health, or being happy, and happy as in being content, not as in, like I said, being joyful and like, oh yeah, everything's, because everyone knows if you're going to do that, you just do the really great fun things, like you eat heaps of ice cream and, you drink with your mates, or have sex, or do those kinds of things that feel great and are good fun and all that kind of stuff. But we can't do that all day. Well, I can't anymore. I'm too old. So if I eat chocolate all day, straight to my hips. And if I drink all day, horrendous hangovers are incoming. And anyway, we'll leave the rest to your imagination. But there are 4 major levers that we use at the Just Be Nice project to help manage people's understandings of their own mental health and also the mental health of others. And this is really important. It's beyond things like just give someone a call, or just pat someone on the back, or just say good work, or just show a bit of love. Those very prescriptive things can be great, and they have their place, absolutely. But they don't really give us a framework in which we can understand how to engage with people in the long term through all kinds of different circumstances and understand what's going on with them. And it doesn't really give us great tools to reflect on our own moments in time, because if the answer is just talk to someone and you've just done that but you don't feel any better, what next? And if we're told all you need to do is talk to someone, just talk to one of your mates, and you do it but you don't feel any better, well then what next? What can we do? And if someone needs help in a material fashion that you're unable to get, then what? Do we just put it in a heap and just call it a day? No is the answer. Let's not do that. Let's move towards a system where we can sort of triage and understand and have some of these levers that we can pull and manipulate to improve our own mental well-being and the well-being of others. So there are 4 major levers that we use for this. Positivity and negativity are the first 2. I'm going to start here because a lot of people speak like positivity and negativity are opposite sides of the same coin. That if you're not feeling positive, then you're feeling negative. And so what we want is we want you to feel positive. And when people are feeling positive, then they're away from being negative. And so that's good. Unfortunately, that's not true. Positivity is its own coin, and negativity is its own coin also. So we've got this thing where we treat positivity like your capacity to feel positive. Some people are really good at it. They're like, yeah, oh my goodness, it's Friday, it's Tuesday, it's the afternoon, there's a coffee, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I've got pants on. Whatever it is, they're able to be really positive about it. It doesn't require much, and they can sort of really hit like a 10 out of 10 positivity, good vibes, happiness, that joy, that kind of real joy. But not everyone's like that. I'm certainly not like that. And some people really struggle, sort of no matter what happens, they really struggle to have this really high positive vibe. And some people can do it really easily. And the way I like to think about it is like a bell curve. So you've got a bell curve. One end is people who can be really positive really easily. The other end, it's like people who really struggle. Most people are kind of in the bell with a trend to one way or the other. Now, I trend a little bit on the side of it's a little bit more challenging for me. I don't just buzz off the ceilings really easily. It takes a bit. But when we're talking about being positive, we can maximize the things, activities, lifestyle that we know or we're working out helps us maintain the highest possible level of positivity when it sort of shows its face. And I know that I'm able to do a better job when my physical health is good, when I've been training, when I've been exercising, when I'm sleeping well. These things that, they're pretty standard things. Not drinking too much, not drinking too often, drinking lots of water, good time with friends, trying to appreciate those things. And I know that helps me stay a bit higher on the positivity scale. But I also know that those things are negatively impacted by stress at work and money troubles and, relationship difficulties and all these kinds of things, stress, they all negatively impact that. So what we're trying to do is just navigate it and recognize that when I'm struggling to feel positive, this is one of the levers. You can be like, well, let's put a bit of time into helping make the positive moments feel a bit better by surrounding them with those activities and supports that help me feel as positive as I can feel. Even if it's never a 12 out of 10, that it's as good as I can get and as good as I'm used to, and I'm okay with that. The other thing we've got then is negativity, which is its own coin again. Let's call it unrelated to positivity, because negativity we can treat as the capacity to bounce back from a negative state. Now, for some people, they just cannot be kept in a negative state. Something happens, they go, oop, oop, and they're back up again. Oop, that was a terrible thing. Oh no. 5 minutes later, whatever, on to the next one. Not bothered. I'm like a Labrador. I just chill. As long as I get a snack, all is good. Can't keep a good man down. Other people, little tiny things will bump them into like a negative state, but they just languish there. They cannot get out. And so again, we're at this kind of bell curve, where can get out of a negative state really easily, get stuck in a negative state for a really long time. It's really, really challenging to get out. Now, most people are in the bell curve. Most people fit in here, but there are people at either ends. And you can be one of these people that very rarely languishes in a negative state, that also doesn't really ever get to a really pumped up, positive, sort of beaming state either. And that's a pretty stable kind of personality. That's not a terrible pair of traits to have. But at the same time, we have people that can really bounce off the walls with positivity, but then when they get in a negative state, they just get stuck and cannot get out. And so many times I've been to too many funerals, I've worked with too many people who have tragically had to say goodbye to a friend or family member. And they say he was the life of the party, a wonderful person, he was up and about, and then we couldn't understand, we didn't see it, they would take their own life. And unfortunately, it becomes a bit of a blind spot to us when we only focus on positivity, because yeah, that person has a really great capacity to be positive, but unfortunately when they get in a negative state, it's really hard for them to move out of it. And just like positivity, we have to pay attention to the things, supports, environments that help us get out of our negative states as much as we need to pay attention to the ones that help us get into a positive state. So it's another lever for us ourselves to manage our own mental health. Hang on, what do I need to do to bounce back from this negative state? But also when we're paying attention to our friends and family, to understand that just because this person is capable of being a 10 out of 10 happy, it doesn't mean that they're able to bounce back from negative states really easily, and that we should constantly look to give them that agency to support them to bounce out of a negative state, instead of being like, you'll be right because I've seen you be a 10 out of 10 happy. I know you'll get back to that. She'll be right. They're not the same coin. They're different pathways. They're different things. And so if we treat them differently, treat helping people out of a negative state differently to treating people maximizing their positive state, then we've got these wonderful tools to assess, to identify, to pay attention, and to help people and help ourselves and make sure we don't get stuck. But Josh, you said there was going to be 4 things and you've only said 2. That's right. The positivity and negativity, really important one at the beginning. And I think it's important to make that distinction. And I think it helps people understand how and why people get stuck even when they seem really happy, but also how they're these kind of bulletproof people. And I just think about kind of grumpy old nanas who've been through the war and they always seem a bit grumpy, but they're also just, their capacity to bounce back from a negative state, they never get stuck there. They just carry on. Then it's kind of like, well, they're never really, really happy, but they never get stuck. They just keep trundling along. And that's okay. We might have previously interpreted that as them not being all right, but actually they're maximizing their happiness and they never get stuck being really negative. And that's really good, positive, kind of strong mental health, good agency. So the other two levers that we've got, we'll work through them one at a time. One of them is focus. So positivity, boom, negativity, boom, focus. Our capacity and ability to focus is so important to maintaining good mental health, to being happy. If you are super scattered, it's so hard to do any of the things you need to do to, one, bounce out of a negative state, two, maintain a positive state, three, pay attention. So there goes your gratitude. There goes your ability to have deep and meaningful relationships, because if you can't focus, then it's a bit of a mess. You're all over the place. If you can't focus, it makes work difficult. It makes life difficult. Conversations are harder. And being able to cultivate focus in an increasingly distracted world is so important. So when you look at the behaviors of someone that you care about or someone you're trying to pay attention to, or you audit your own behavior, how much time are you spending actually focusing on something? And now people are introducing some of this through things like mindfulness or meditation. Some people get it through physical training, reading a book or doing those sorts of things. We're going to say watching TV doesn't really count because you're kind of not really present in a space. You become present in 100 places on the telly or in the movie. There's lots of scene cuts. There's lots of stuff happening. And let's be honest, most of us watch TV with our phones in our hands doing all these things anyway. This video, if you've gotten this far, is already too long for 99% of people. But it's just so hard to get through what is an essential and nuanced conversation that I'll do my best to keep making them shorter, but it's very difficult. So, but that's a side effect of focus, and maybe me being a little bit boring. Maybe I'm not exciting enough. Maybe I need to, just break it up with one of these ones or something, but I'll take a bit of responsibility for that. But focus is really important. And if we can't focus, we essentially can't be happy. It's very difficult. You can't be happy with what you've got if you're always looking for something else. You can't learn properly if you're always like scattered attention. How can you enjoy one image if all you're doing is these ones, just swiping, same for dating, same for conversations. So focus is a really important lever. If you know people that are struggling, then a great sort of entry-level way to start helping them out, and a lot of people will point to this as take them to meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, all these things. But what they all boil down to is how to improve this person's capacity to focus. And it's like a muscle. It takes time. So reading together, walking in the woods without your phone together, good conversations, eye to eye. Hey, how's it going? Let's pay attention. All these kinds of things are all improving focus. And that's great. So any of those practices that resonate with yourself or with the person you're trying to help, if they're moving them towards a better capacity to focus, it will help them with their happiness and their mental health in the long term. So positivity, negativity, focus. Fourth one, capacity to contribute, capacity to be generous. We are social animals. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a lunatic, and we are wired for all the good vibes from contributing to the lives of others, from helping other people, from working together. The great analogy is that the greatest punishment you can give a human being is not to put them in a room with terrorists and murderers and sexual predators, but it is to move them out of that room and put them on their own into solitary confinement. We go from prison to solitary confinement, because being on your own is worse than being around challenging people. So all of those signals that are manipulated by social media for our capacity to contribute, hijacking them so that we think likes do something, but they're like the sugar lollies of actual contribution, that we think we mistake likes and giving likes and online social media activism, all this sort of stuff, as being contribution, when it's not really. True contribution is a really human thing, and it is best done by humans in person. That's our greatest kind of contribution. People will tell you that they have these intense feelings when they have their own children, because boom, there's an avenue for amazing contribution. Everything you do now has a point. It'll all benefit this kid, that you can now just give all the best things of yourself to, which is an amazing AAA rated 5-star gold standard capacity to contribute. But for other people, finding ways to contribute can be a challenge. Some people don't have that many avenues to contribution, and isolation can be a factor, and physical isolation or just emotional isolation. We can lack what we think are the resources to help. People might not allow us to participate in their help or in their development or in their lives in a way that makes us feel like we are contributing. And that's a big one, because when you're looking to cheer yourself up, you can put a bit of time into contributing to the people around you. And for me, it's always about get off the internet. That doesn't mean make a big song and dance about something or start a GoFundMe or do something like that. The first step is, well, the people I know, what can I do to help the people closest to me, the people that I know the best? And if you say they don't need any help or they don't need anything, then you're not paying enough attention. So step back again, pay a bit more attention, and see what you can do to make their lives a bit better, a little bit easier, a bit more connected. That's really important. I think that's way more important. I'd rather see that than anything else. And obviously, ultimately, I'd love to see people come and help with the Just Be Nice project and contribute to us. But the first step is that you pay attention to those people close to you, your communities and your workmates and your family and your friends. We spend a long time looking beyond our own close circles to contribute all the way over there, when really there's this great avenue for contribution for the people and communities that we're engaged with already. So not some new, I'm going to guess, just the people you know. Start there. One way that you can help someone who feels like they're not contributing or haven't had that much contribution is to show a bit of appreciation. If you say thank you to someone and specifically make it about their contribution to you, it's a fantastic two-way win, because on the one hand, you're improving their capacity to contribute by letting them be aware of a time they contributed to you that they weren't previously aware of, and let them know that it was a bigger impact than they maybe thought it was. So boom, my capacity to contribute has improved because you just told me I did a much better job than I thought I did. Happy days. I'm feeling much better about that. And you, the appreciation giver, are being generous with your appreciation. And that's a great thing for you. So you win both ways. It has to be sincere. I think you have to be thoughtful about it, and it has to be real. But if you do that, then that's a great way to lift people up as well as lift yourself up. So capacity to contribute is really important. Now, people who are really stressed, people who are time poor, cash poor, community poor, people who are isolated, these people, they struggle to have that great capacity. That's why dead-end jobs are so miserable. That's why those brainless, mindless jobs are so soul-destroying, because they really impact people's capacity to contribute to the people they care about, to community, to the world at large. And that makes them miserable. Or it can make you miserable. Or it can sort of eat away at your soul a little bit. And I think that's a feeling we've all probably had at some point in time. So in the end, we've got these great levers that we can check out for ourselves, that we can check out when we're working with other people or speaking to other people or caring about other people. The levers of positivity and negativity, helping people be positive, helping people recover from a negative state, helping people focus, and helping people's capacity to contribute and improving our capacity to contribute by paying more attention to the ways we can assist the people around us. Meaningfully assist, not just buy a coffee for the person behind you who's a stranger, who for all you know might be a multi-billionaire. You don't know. You know the people near you. Help them out. If you don't know how to help them out, spend a bit more time paying attention. See what makes them feel better. See what makes them have a more positive state. See what helps them bounce out of a negative state. Help them focus. All of these sorts of things are going to make your life better. They're going to make the lives of others better. And they're more meaningful frameworks than just pithy one-off, do this, train more, or ask a question more, or do this thing. Because people are different. As much as we're the same, people are different. We like different things. We operate in different environments. We have different challenges. So we help move people towards agency. Using this kind of framework, hopefully it helps. I hope it makes a difference to the way that you see the world and see how you manage your own mental health, and how you pay attention to your friends and family, and how you help them on their journey to feel good. And if you're struggling with any of it, by all means reach out. If you want some more information or you want to talk about it a bit more deeply, reach out. Can literally go on for days. This is already way too long. No one probably gets to the end, but if you found some value in it, if you think it's a message worth spreading, please share it around. Let people know. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to get here. Keep looking after each other. Keep helping people maintain and develop agency in their lives. And as always, just be nice. Thanks very much.